Hello, friends. I'm coming to you today from my backyard for a change of pace, and there's a purpose to my location, which I'll get to in a little bit. I want to invite you for this week's meditation to spend some time with the gospel text that we'll be hearing on Sunday. It includes the famous parable of the Good Samaritan in the 10th chapter of Luke's Gospel, and you'll hear the full parable on Sunday. But I want to invite you to reflect this week on the very beginning of the parable, on the question that prompts Jesus to tell the parable. I want to invite you to spend some time in that question. Here are the opening verses. An expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? What do you read there?" He answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You have given the right answer. Do this and you will live." But wanting to vindicate himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" An expert on the Jewish law asks Jesus what he must do to be in right relationship with God. Jesus turns the question back to him, and the man answers, "Love God and love your neighbor as yourself." "Correct," says Jesus. But the conversation doesn't end there. The man is fishing for something else. He seems to want to know how big the neighborhood in question is. Who are my neighbors? How many people is it exactly that you are expecting me to love? And isn't that the question? You can go read the parable to hear Jesus' answer, and we'll talk about that on Sunday. But in the meantime, I wanted to invite each of you to spend some time with the man's question. Who are your neighbors? When you think about neighbor love, who comes to mind? How big is your neighborhood? Who's in? Who's out? And let me offer a thought to prime the pump on that thinking. In the world of ecology, there's a concept called the ecological neighborhood. An ecological neighborhood is the area across which an individual organism both has an effect on its neighbors and is in turn affected by its neighbors. To an ecologist's way of thinking, one way to define who my neighbors are would be that they include every human being whose life is affected by my life or affects my life in any way. So if you think about that idea of neighborhood, what does that neighborhood look like in your life? And while we're employing some ecological thinking, here's another question that the ecologist in me wonders about. Is it only humans who are my neighbors? Or might the alder shrubs in the forest behind me be neighbors? And the birch trees and the red maple, the red oak over my head, the white ash, are they my neighbors? And the doe and her two speckled fawns who cross my lawn just about every day and head back into those shrubs for a snack and a nap, are they my neighbors? And what about the crows who spend time over in my compost? I think the collective noun for a group of crows is a murder of crows, although I've never seen them murder anything except possibly some of the worms that live in the compost. Are the crows my neighbors? Should I love them too? Let your imagination loose on the man's question of Jesus. Make it your question. See where it takes you. Let it surprise you, let it challenge you, and pay attention to how that work of imagining, how even just holding the question shifts your perception this week. Do you find yourself moving through the world differently as you ponder actively this question of who your neighbors are? What feels different? To accompany your imagining and maybe to spark some imagining, I wanted to share with you a poem written by St. Francis of Assisi. It's called "God Would Kneel Down." I think God might be a little prejudiced For once he asked me to join him on a walk through this world, and we gazed into every heart on this earth, and I noticed he lingered a bit longer before any face that was weeping, and before any eyes that were laughing. And sometimes when we passed a soul in worship, God too would kneel down. I have come to learn God adores his creation. Blessings, friends, on your meditating and reflecting and imagining this week.